Hey guys, Ash here, WATN News, doing another update. I kind of fell into a funny side rabbit hole sort of here. I started getting interested again in like the old gangs in New York, which I used to research a lot, looking into old ways that the gangs and people in major cities used to affect elections. So I'll get into that in a second. It's kind of interesting. But first, I just wanted to check the map out and notice a couple of irregularities and things that I'm seeing. One thing I noticed in Georgia, which was that I think this was at 10,000 last night, but I noticed it crept up just a little bit for Joe, and now he's up 12,000 votes. I'm pretty sure this was 2,000 less last night, if I remember correctly. It was about 10,000 and change. So I don't know if a couple of things snuck in for Joe there. It looks like that might have changed a little bit. What's also weird is look at New York. Again, somebody needs to get on the horn to New York and say, what are you people doing? Because according to this, you haven't even counted 7 million votes. And if you look at the population in New York State, it's 19.4 million. Do you expect us to believe that you've only counted 6 million votes? Seven? That's not even half the state voted then. Is that possible? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. You've only counted 80% and you're not doing anything. What's going on in New York? I mean, this is just insane. It never closed. They never even got to 100%. Most of these states did. Maine, 99.3. There's another state that's not even close to closed either. Vermont, 99. Connecticut, 99. What about New Jersey? Nope, 85%. Now, New Jersey counted even less according to this. New Jersey's counted what? 3.78 million votes, 3.8 million votes. What's the population in New Jersey? 8.9 million. Where's all the rest of the votes? Where's your vote totals? Where's all the people that voted? Are you trying to tell me that the turnout in your state was 40%? I find that hard to believe. So either this was just stopped being updated, which is not true because other states are, or there's something going on in New York and New Jersey. And I believe the Dominion software was used in New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check. But this is looking suspicious as well to me, because I don't see how you counted that little bit in this time. I mean, it's a week after the election. It's a solid week after the election. You haven't counted any more than this. You haven't counted more than 5-6 million votes in New York State. What's going on here? Why are all these other states almost done and you're at 75%, 78%, whatever you're at? It's irresponsible at the least, and it appears to be something more at the worst. Arizona, we're still waiting. I don't know what these people are doing out there. Thought I noticed a slight change in this. Maricopa County, that it looks like Trump might have picked up a couple thousand more votes here, but not much change. And again, 98%. I don't know what these people are doing there. It looks like there's going to be a lawsuit and recounts possibly here. Yuma, 95%, same as yesterday. Mojave, no change. I mean, what are you doing? You only got 5 counties left, and they're almost all counted, but you can't seem to finish. You know, the longer this goes on, the more suspicious it becomes, in my view. Um, Another thing I was looking at, what was it? Right, Michigan. Almost closed, and of course, you know that there's been some vote switching allegations in this state as well as Wisconsin. Now, the county in question in Wisconsin was called Rock County, which is all the way down here in the south part of the state, right near the border. And you could see that it's close. It's within the 9,000 votes. And, did they do the vote switching there? We don't know that yet for sure, but this. And also, this county here seems suspect and very close as well, which is green right next to it. They might want to look into both of these now. You have a 700 vote difference here, less than 700 vote difference here, and you have a 9,000 vote difference here, which is very close as well. Dane County looked like a complete blowout. You know, we don't know. Was votes switched in all these counties? Was Was it just done in counties where he was close with Trump, where Trump was winning, where they could do it? I don't know that yet, but it appears that too many instances now of vote switching has gone on where, and it's been caught on videotape as well, where you can't deny that. And so these mainstream newscasts who are talking about there's no evidence, I don't know what they're seeing. They're obviously trying to cover up the crime because there's plenty of evidence. Um, I got into a side rabbit hole of election fraud in different time periods, and I found this interesting article, which was called from Atlas Obscura by Natalie Zarelli, entitled "Election Fraud in the 1800s Involved Kidnapping and Forced Drinking," and how roving cooping gangs got voters drunk and disturbed the democratic process. And it goes on to talk about what cooping was basically you'd be grabbed off the street by some gang members, usually like these guys. You'd be kidnapped basically and taken to a location where you would be force fed alcohol, or maybe just even threatened, and then you'd go vote, and your appearance could then be changed in different ways and vote in different areas. And I guess they got you wasted so that you were more pliant and easier to deal with, and you wouldn't make a stink. Uh, so this went on. This was cooping was a form of electoral fraud in the United States cited in relation to the death of Edgar Allan Poe in October 1849, by which unwilling participants were forced to vote, often several times over, for a particular candidate in an election. According to several of Poe's biographers, these innocent bystanders will be grabbed off the street by so-called cooping gangs, or election gangs working on the payroll of a political candidate, and they will be kept in a room called the coop and given alcoholic beverages in order for them to comply. If they refused to cooperate, they would be beaten or even killed. Often their clothing would be changed to allow them to vote multiple times. Sometimes the victims would be forced to wear disguises such as wigs, fake beards, or mustaches to prevent them from being recognized by voting officials at polling stations. So you can see this has been going on a long time. It's nothing new here, right? They were doing this back in the 1830s, 40s, 50s in New York and other big cities. You can go look up people like Boss Tweed and Tammany Hall, who ran the corrupt Tammany Hall that took over New York politics in parts of the 1800s period. And you could see how this is a little history of Tammany Hall by Robert McNamara, Thought Company. Tammany was the name given to a powerful political machine that essentially ran New York City throughout much of the 19th century. The organization reached a peak of notoriety in the decade following the Civil War when it harbored, quote, the Ring, the corrupted political organization of Boss Tweed. After the scandals of the Tweed years, Tammany continued to dominate New York City politics and spawned such characters as Richard Croker, who may have killed a political opponent in his youth, and George Washington Plunkett, who defended what he termed honest graft. The organization existed well into the 20th century when it was finally killed off after decades of crusaders and reformers sought to extinguish its power. And we're not sure if that actually really did ever happen. There were a lot of people that definitely, like Thomas Nast and the cartoonist and people like that, who really made efforts over the years to stop the power. But Tammany Hall was really in control of New York for decade upon decade upon decade. And as the Irish immigrants started to flow in the 1850s and 60s and periods going forward, Tammany Hall made sure that they helped those people, and also made sure that they got certain things that they might need, like coal and wood and things, and so that they would vote the way they wanted them to when the elections came around. And if that wouldn't work, then they would send out cooping gangs and other gangs to hang around near the polling stations and tell people who to vote for and threaten certain people. I mean, it wasn't that uncommon to see back in the 1840s, 50s, 60s, 70s periods to have gang members outside the polling places. Now you have poll watchers, right? Well, the poll watchers back then used to be gang members, and they would be watching you to make sure you voted the way that Tammany Hall instructed them that they wanted you to vote. And so you realize that places like New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, major cities that sprang up in these periods and earlier were basically corrupt from the get-go. And there was really all the mechanisms that were in place to make sure that the elections were fair were basically either short-circuited or just removed completely from the process. and you see how people could vote multiple times. People could be disguised and vote, different ways. Not much else news to report, guys. Uh, 10 state attorney generals joined suit against Pennsylvania, where individuals were allowed to vote 3 days after the election. That's going to really be the deal. I mean, you're not supposed to vote after the election, right? It's election day. So if they end up throwing all the votes out that came after in the days after the election, I see Trump taking Pennsylvania pretty easily. And there was also the vote switching that went on there in 3 different counties that we now have to deal with and look into. So a lot going on, but I just wanted to go back into this, to let people understand that, especially if you happen to not be from the United States, that unfortunately in the United States we have a voting system that has been corrupt for hundreds of years, and it's never been fixed, and it's just gotten more uh, more advanced in the way they can do it now with the vote switching and computer algorithms that they're running and things like that that should not be being used at all. By the way, Georgia also is using the Dominion software for the first time this year. I just found out. And of course, hey, there's a problem in your election. How unusual, right? So they're going to do a full, I think they're going to do an audit first and then they're going to do a recount. So who knows how long Georgia's going to take. They're going to slow roll every single one of these states. And I think that the government, the Department of Justice especially, is going to have to bring pressure to bear on these states to speed up the vote counts. I mean, look at this. They're not Alaska. Well, what are you doing? What are you doing? Right? You're not calling this yet. This has been read before on the Fox, on other sites. Why are you not calling this? Why are you not calling North Carolina? Right? For Trump. Why aren't you giving him any more electoral votes? You're giving him none. So we'll see how this all plays out. I just wanted to talk about the cooping and all kinds of other voter intimidation tactics that used to be used in the past. This is not new. It's just the game's changed with the technology. So with that, guys, have a great day, and I'll talk with you soon. Thanks.